Hey, what's up, guys? My name's Josh. I wanted to share some info with everybody in regards to the IgVg role in wars, specifically, obviously, to New World Aeternum. That's the game that we're playing. I was trying to find a video to assist my company in like bettering the IgVGs, and especially with the relaunch of New World Aeternum not being incredibly old. There's a lot of new players that are coming in, still people coming in, which is awesome. And so I was like, hey, let me help out. I've been playing IGVG for years. I can talk you through it, but I'd rather just show you a video that makes it easier for me because I'm lazy. So in my lazy, admittedly, search of YouTube, I found not many IGVG guides, so to say. So, in trying to take the lazy route, I am now doing the harder part and I'm making a video about it. If you don't know, an IgVg is an ice gauntlet and a void gauntlet. There are, it's kind of a weird build. It's very niche, right? But we're going to talk about it. We're going to break it down. This is going to be very much like free flow, off the brain kind of thing. I have some notes here that I'm going to use to keep my own thoughts in order. But generally speaking, this is going to be just kind of like a free form, talk you through what I know. I've been playing IGVG for years now. And so there's a lot of things that can go into it, a lot of really cool aspects of an IGVG. There's a lot of like misnomers about the IGVG, that it's like this like super deadly thing or whatever. Kind of not. We'll talk about it. Okay. So to cover the basics of it, you can have an IgVg in any group and in any comp for a war. And I want to clarify, I'm specifying this mostly to a war scenario because that's kind of the content that I go for. And truthfully, that's kind of the content the IgVg is just best in. It is still good in other forms of content like OPR. You'll do well in OPRs. 3v3s, not so much, depending on the build that you try to run. So it all just kind of depends. But I am going to specifically focus on wars. So you can you can run an IGVG in light, medium, or heavy, each one with their varying degrees of difficulty and skill requirement. But also, it doesn't make sense to run them in certain places in those builds. So you'll just have to be careful. And truthfully, like somebody in your company is going to know what the right answer is, probably, or at least close. Or you're going to continue watching the video and you're going to find out. So if you want to run a light IgVG, incredibly dangerous. Well, not incredibly dangerous. Is no more dangerous than any other mage on the battlefield or anything. But you're going to want to really focus and be in the kill squad. That's the only place that I see it being viable in a war scenario, is in the kill squad. It doesn't really make sense to have it on point or anything like that. And truthfully, in my opinion, I see the IgVG in a light build in a kill squad getting outshined in other areas, like using a disruptor or something like that would probably just be better. All up to you guys, depending on, maybe you're him, right? And you're just that good and you can run an IgVG in light in a kill squad and make it really good. Sure, do it. But generally focusing more in a medium and heavy sense for an IgVG. When it comes to a medium loadouts, I typically recommend medium loadouts to much more experienced IgVGs who are looking for a little bit of a different play style, who are already comfortable in the build, who are looking to increase their damage a little bit and maybe secure some more kills. And I would only recommend them also potentially in the kill squad in a disruptor kind of role, maybe as like a strong side, weak side, just close to point kind of thing, or in a quad potentially. I personally have always enjoyed a heavy. I enjoyed a medium a long time ago when that was the meta. Now, currently, I just only ever run heavy. It's what I'm most comfortable in, and it's awesome. There's very few times where I ever feel in danger or anything like that. So, just things to consider when looking at what kind of loadout you want to build. Heavy IGVGs can play anywhere on the point, anywhere around the point. but you're probably going to be strictly in one of those quad or point teams if you're going to be in a heavy loadout, just based off the mobility that you don't have with a heavy loadout for that. So what is your job? Your job as an IgVG is a couple of different things. The biggest ones are like CC. Your crowd control is unreal as an IgVG. Zoning for people or peeling for people as well. Different, similar though, and I'll explain them. You secure kills. You don't get many kills. You are an absolute assist machine. War last week got 396 assists, right? Unreal assist output. And that's your goal. Your goal is to lock people down, disease them, stop them from being able to get heals, buffing your team while simultaneously debuffing the enemy team. And then the other really big thing, especially for heavies, but for mediums as well, when you're on point, you're getting a lot of the point tick. Like you are securing points just as much, if not more, than the bruisers, or almost as much as the point tanks, right? Whenever I go for my role selector, I select the tank icon because a heavy IgVG is a tank. And like your main job is to be a soldier, like just lock it in, understand that you are not going to get praised for these like the super high kill count or your super high score, but you are going to be an absolutely pivotal point for the army. It is an absolute requirement to have your IgVGs locked in. So when I talk about CCs, right, we'll go over here into game. See me running around here. I've got my little dummies here set up. Let me zoom out a little bit for you. So things that we use for CC. The Ice Gauntlet is really good for crowd control, especially with the heavy attack slows that it does now. You obviously have your Ice Shower that you can run. You have your Ice Storm that you can do, which slows people. And then going over to the Void Gauntlet, your Scream locks people down, it roots them. And then when we get into the gear, we'll talk about other things that the gear and the perks, we'll talk about other things that it does as well. When I talk about zoning, that gets more into the storm aspect of what I'm talking about. Because if I'm over here fighting on point somewhere doing my thing, right, and I see these people coming in from over on a flank, I can throw an ice storm out. And what that ice storm is going to do is slow them as they're trying to come towards me. I can also, if I'm playing on point and I see these two running at me, I can throw up an ice wall and I can continue to fight over here knowing that they're not getting through that anytime soon. And so I can continue pushing the point. You're the guy who is able to build the quads and like zone out the quads for your team. So what I mean by that is if I am trying to set up a bomb on point for a detonate or something like that, I can get up towards the flag, towards that center pillar on the point that you're capturing. I can use that sort of as one of my as one of the little beams in my ice wall that I'm building, the ice shower. So I can go up, and if I play it right, I'll get as close as I can. It takes some practice to get used to, but you just kind of run up and you throw it down. See, I scuffed that one right there, but if you play it right, you can kind of start. It's probably more over this way, of where you're going to be able to build an ice wall onto that pillar, and you're going to essentially add another one. And so you build out your ice wall this way, you build out your ice wall that way. Your quad is now isolated up in, for that, like the top right or whatever, or top left, depending on how the view is coming this way. And so I drop it in there. Cool, now look, I have added another one. If I run another one up this way, cool. All of these people who are trapped in this area right here, they're now going to get detonated on, or they're going to run out this way and be running off of point, right? And you'll hopefully have people there, other IgVGs doing the same thing, building a box around the bomb, right? And then when I talk about peeling, specifically, I always think of peeling for healers, right? Because you want your healers to survive because they're the ones that are going to keep you alive. If I've got a healer running away from a disruptor or from whatever is chasing him, I can come up to my friendly healer here. I can drop an ice wall for him. He will then be able to run away from that person who's going to get locked behind my ice wall. You notice also I had the haste that popped up that transitions over to friendlies as well. So they'll be able to haste through the ice wall while the enemy is trapped behind it, and you're just assisting them in getting away. You can also use your storm to be able to slow the enemy that is chasing them. You have a lot in your kit to be able to help not only kill the enemy but also support your team. So it's a really, it's just such an important role for a war group to have. So your typical rotation when you're running an IgVg, you're going to play majority of the time on your Void Gauntlet, a majority, not all, right? The Void Gauntlet, I like to think of it, the Void Gauntlet's what's going to get the kills for your army, not get you the kills, get the kills for the army. You're going to get the assists. And then the Ice Gauntlet is more what's going to either defend yourself or slow their push down, right? In turn, defending yourself. And it's kind of your get out of jail free card with Tomb as well. So your typical rotation, the way that I like to do it, you're going to Scream, Oblivion, Orb, and then light attacks. You can also do heavy attacks. Heavy attacks with the new update now travel between multiple target. They can go up to multiple. I'm hitting the corner of that box there. But they go through, so you can see it was hitting over on this one as well. So you can kind of get your Void Gauntlet heavies to travel a little bit. It does not cause the tick from, I'm running Life Taker right now, so I'm getting the ticks off of it from the Disintegrate that it stacks. It doesn't stack that. It does not self-heal like a normal heavy does. It still self-heals on the first one, but it will not self-heal off of the second one. So just things to know. But it will still, it still causes damage, and it still helps you with your cooldown reduction and things like that. The reason that we do the Scream, Oblivion, and Orb, right? And I want to specify something about the Orb too. So I will Scream them. That's going to root them in place. They're not going to be able to go anywhere. I'm going to drop Oblivion. That is going to give everybody around that person empower. It's going to lower, it's going to, essentially it's just going to ensure that they are, it's a bunch of debuffs and buffs, right? So it's going to make sure that they are dying or giving them the best opportunity to die. And then when I use Orb, what I want to do with Orb is I want to find the biggest clump that I have close to me, and I want to send my Orb into that clump. It's going to do a couple different things when you do that, and ideally you're popping it in your clump. If you don't know what I'm talking about, we look into the Void Gauntlet tree. When you at max range, it transforms into a healing orb and returns healing friendlies. We don't want that to happen 99% of the time. Sometimes it does, sometimes it just happens. You miss it. Sometimes it makes sense to do it, but not often. What we want to do is pop this detonating orb. Now this does work both damaging and healing. So think of, you know, if you miss it, maybe at least pop it, maybe at least detonate it on its way back to get a bigger heal off of it. But typically you want it to be popped in the aggressive form. And so what it does is it causes a 4-meter explosion that does some damage around there. It damages the enemies around there, but it has crit chance, and the crit chance is what we're really hunting for, because in your Void Gauntlet tree, if you have built it correctly, you're looking for on critical hits you're getting cooldown reduction. The Void Gauntlet is insane for cooldown reduction, so we're trying to get as much of that as possible. So typically I'm going to Scream, Oblivion, pop a detonate or pop an orb over. I'm going to detonate that orb in the biggest clump that I can find, and then I'm going to be able to get my cooldown reduction going a little bit faster. I want to show a little clip here of what that actually looks like in a war scenario. So watch my cooldowns down here. This is a war that I was in a couple days ago, and it shows pretty well what I'm talking about here. So I'm playing life. I'm trying to do something. I come up here and I Scream, totally whiff the Scream, right? I am immediately put on an 18-second cooldown just based off of some refreshing and stuff that I have. And then from here, we'll slow it down here so that you can see exactly what happens here. but I get stunned. And so now I can't do my light attacks or anything like that, but I see that I've got a big clump ahead of me. So I just back up, I pop an orb in there, and oh man, look at that. It just went from 17 seconds down to 3 seconds, all because of all those crits that I got on my detonate. It just really quickly cools down your rotation. And so you're able to essentially have 100% uptime on all of your skills that you need. So it's incredibly useful for you to be running detonating orb, and we'll get further when we go into the gear and stuff like that. We'll talk about what exactly we want to run to increase that crit chance, but this is just the basics of it for now. So when we get over to the Ice Gauntlet, what we want to really focus on is either it essentially all comes down to playing your life, right? So with Ice Gauntlet, again, you can toss a storm somewhere, you can block off enemy coming encroaching in towards the point or towards your quad or whatever. And then obviously you have the tomb here. Tomb is awesome. Tomb is let's read through exactly what it is. I want to say it's like the tomb has half your health or something like that. It's like 50%. Yeah, 50% of your max health. So it kind of varies depending on what your health is, of what you're going to be able to get out of it. But it can last up to 10 seconds. You can pop out of it early. You could wait and let the tomb just crack and be fine. You can dodge out of it. So when I say break out of it early, you can dodge out of it, but you could also break it on purpose, and it'll do a little burst of damage around you, which is always nice. So that's another thing you can do. And the really big thing about Tomb is it cleanses you of your debuffs. All debuffs are just gone. It's like one of the only ways, not in a war scenario using cleanse pots, which we will talk about, but it's one of the only ways, like in an OPR, to just fully cleanse all your debuffs for free. It's awesome. It's if you're not running cleansing tomb, you're throwing 100%. It's just such a good skill to use. While we're on this screen, I'll go ahead and go over what I run for my skills, or for my weapon skills. Obviously, I'm running shower, storm, and tomb. I go all the way down on those. Heavy freeze is really good because you can, if I drop a storm on somebody and then hit them with a charged heavy, they'll just root in place. That is a big reason why we want to run unending thaw on somewhere on our gear, because it gives you a little bit longer of a duration to be able to actually get that root in place. So that's a really good thing that you can use. Again, just more CC, as if this kit needed any more, right? I run the critical rejuvenation. I like mana. I crit all the time, and so it's nice because this is a very mana thirsty build. The Void Gauntlet specifically, I'll show you guys when we go into the skill breakdown. But it is just, you are always using mana. It's ridiculous. You're very rarely ever topped off. Blocking. The blocking stamina, some people are going to say this is stupid. I'll show you a clip here in a few seconds of why blocking is not stupid, right? It will legitimately save your life way more often than you think it will. The Ice Gauntlet block is much better than anybody gives it credit for. It's not going to block projectiles and stuff like that very well, but as far as like physical melee attacks, it's awesome. It's very useful. And then you have your slow. If you get hit by somebody, you have some haste when you're going through there. There's also the haste in the quick shower, in your ice shower availability there. So just things that you want to use, go ahead and screenshot it if you want to. This is what I run. I don't think I've changed this loadout or this skill setup in a very, like, couldn't remember the last time I ran something different. Some people say that cold reach is good. And I agree that cold reach is good. Don't get me wrong. I personally don't run it because I'm running a heavy point-based IgVg, which, I mean, on point is going to be where I'm going to always be within those 15 meters, but I'm not running super high damage output is more what I mean. So I just don't spec into that, and I throw it somewhere else just to get more value for the army. Again, this is a soldier build, right? Like, you gotta buckle in and be like, I'm not gonna, be the number one on the leaderboard or anything, you're going to be pretty high up there. And I can promise, once you get good in this rotation, you're going to be very high in your leaderboards. I run my IgVg and OPRs all the time, very regularly, top 10, top 15, which it's OPR, but whatever. So don't think that you're not going to be doing well, right? You're still going to be doing well. But this is just the way that I prefer to play it. I am playing for the team versus playing for myself. When we get into the Void Gauntlet, this is how I run mine. Big ones, obviously Scream, Oblivion, and Orb. You're going to take them the whole way down. Some people like the Void Caller thing. Personally, don't. It's preference. Big things that I think are just like 100% non-negotiables, right? The Refreshing Precision, non-negotiable. If you're not running it, you don't know what you're doing. The Refreshing Frailty, super good. Again, more cooldown reduction. It never hurts. And then the Cleansing Harvest. So when we say Cleansing Harvest, right, it's your, when you're sitting here just holding right click because the Void Gauntlet doesn't have a block or anything like that, you kind of harvest your mana to be able to get mana back because this is such a mana heavy or mana thirsty build. When you do that with that perk on there, you will now cleanse a debuff. It's got a 3-second cooldown while you're doing your, when you're doing your, when you're, if we call it like sucking yourself off, right? When you are harvesting your essence, all you want to do is tap it. You don't want to be holding it like I was, right? Because I was just simply showing you what it looks like. All you want to do is a very quick tap that limits the amount of damage that you're going to take. It's still going to give you a ton of mana back. We'll burn a bunch of mana here. I got 40 mana back right there, right? So you don't need to hold it a whole bunch. If you do, you're just simply trying to kill yourself or demoing for a video, I guess. So remember not to be holding on to that for super long. Specifically why, what this says here, it's going to remove, it has a 3-second cooldown, so it's going to remove the debuff for you after just simply a click, right? But by holding it, you're not getting more debuffs pulled off. You're just drinking your own drinking your own life force for no reason. So make sure you're doing that. And there's a couple others that are super good in here. Empower is always good. You could in theory change that out for something else if you wanted to. If you wanted to run like Radiant Efficiency to not be as mana thirsty, you could change that out because Empower is kind of in a weird place with the with not the Empower changes, but the Empower negation, or like the extra punishing the Empower that's out there. So maybe you don't want to be empowered. That's up to you. This is the same skill tree that I've been running for a long time, so I haven't changed it, but looking into that, maybe, potentially, I don't know. So that is the typical rotation that you want to use. The other thing that we should probably talk about mixing in with your rotation is your heart rune. Your heart rune could vary depending on what your role is in the army. I currently play on a point team. I flex into a quad every now and then. I really like Bile. That's why I'm running Life Taker. I'll go over the armor in a little bit. But Bile is very good of where it just causes a disease on everybody that's going around, and incoming healing goes down, outgoing healing goes down. I haven't upgraded it to the max one yet, but it also slows them, so that's awesome. The other thing that you can do is you can do Vines here. Vines is really good specific it's really good anyway, but specifically if you're still running a typical like detonate bomb style war or army of where your quads are going to be bombing in on people, you'd probably want to run Vines instead, because then you'll be able to run in and trap them in that bomb even further. And so it's just a really good thing. There could be an argument for like Mending Stone Form to be had, but I mean, truthfully, you're just so tanky. I don't see a need for it. There's options though, right? So it kind of all just depends on what your play style is and what you find to be the best thing for you. So going into the armor and the perks, right? So this is my current setup. This is a pretty typical heavy IgVg, full Frigid Dawn, except for the magnetic gauntlets. There's some argument back and forth. I don't think argument. I think it's more or less just like what people want to run. about whether you use Life Taker or Deep Freeze. I prefer Life Taker simply because, like I said, with the disintegrate stacks that you're getting, I am not focused too much on getting extra damage like the Deep Freeze would give me if they're in a frosted area or anything like that. I am, again, playing a soldier build, right? So I'm priority for assists and making sure that people die. That's why I go with Life Taker. It stacks the Disintegrate, which is essentially another form of Rend. It gives me some dots. It's going to tick up my bile faster, so I can just continuously spam my bile that's going out. My current setup, I want to change the health out for this one. I had it on a PvP tank set, and I just don't really need it on an IgVg. That is why I prefer, and hear me out here for a minute. I will always take a 710 gear score like mine is, right? Yes, the max is 725. Yes, I could probably get this up to like 715 right now just by going and getting a 725 ice gauntlet. And I would love to if I had a good one that dropped, right? But this one's just good enough for now, okay? But Frigid Dawn is just so good. You have elemental aversion and enchanted ward locked on it. You get it for free by running mutated glacial tarn. There's just no reason not to run it. Can you get higher gear score armor? Yes, you can. Do you need higher gear score armor? No, you don't. You just simply don't. Okay, it's I would defer to Micro because he is the goat on all the things math related in New World. I want to say his last assessment said that it's about a 4% damage difference when you go from 700, like 710 to 725. It's something like that. Micro, correct me if I'm wrong, please, if you dare to watch my video. But I don't care that much about the 4% damage output. I will take the Enchanted Ward and Elemental Aversion 10 out of 10 times. Again, I have health on this one. I would prefer to change that out for Deadly Frost or Freedom. Deadly Frost is an ice gauntlet skill for the ice shower. It does a damage over time effect while they're stuck in your ice shower. Not necessarily worried about that, but what even more importantly it does is it reduces the cooldown on your ice shower. Really good, because then you can further zone and peel for people as you need. I have refreshing on here. I don't hate it. I could change it out for freedom. It just kind of is what it is. My magnetic gauntlets. If you're not running magnetic gauntlets on an IgVg, listen, there's other options out there. I get it. Run the magnetic gauntlets. Trust me, you'll thank me. Okay, they're just so good. I'll go into more artifact choices here in a minute, but it's just so good running magnetic gauntlets. Here I've got freedom on, so I'm good with sticking with that one. I'm not going to change that one. And then I throw scream on here. Some people will go back and forth of whether you want scream on your weapon or scream on your armor. I prefer it on the armor. For on the armor, you get a 32% healing, incoming healing reduction. On a weapon, it goes to 44%, I believe. Good, big difference. What I choose to run is diminishing orb, because diminishing orb goes from 75% non-consumable reduction on the weapon, whereas you put it on the armor and it goes down to 35%. So it's just, I mean, it's a huge hit to it. I run this on my weapon. I prefer it. That's just me. And then I have Unending Thaw on here. I said already the frost effect remains on enemies for 2 seconds after exiting storm. That's a huge help if you're trying to root people. So that's how I run it. The Life Ring Amulet, farmable, easy to find. You can get a better one. I just got this one for free by spending like an hour at the Life Ring farm. And then it comes with Divine and Health locked on there. I threw Strike Protection on it because of the hammers on point and stuff like that. And then I just kind of backfill my slash reduction with a Moonstone in there. Blood Drinker, I'm currently running it because I haven't found Ankh yet. I'd probably, sitting on point or in a quad, I'd probably run Ankh instead. I just haven't gotten it from PvP track yet. For now, I'm running Blood Drinker. I would not in any way, shape, or form recommend Endless Thirst. in a war scenario specifically, because your cleanse pots are so important in a war scenario. And the way that the endless thirst works is it puts your pots on cooldown for longer. I just don't think that's worth it. You're not going to get, yes, the healing boost from your potion and your regen serums and all that stuff is awesome, but the fact that you can't cleanse pot, like on a baseline, you can't cleanse pot for like 45 seconds or something ridiculous. It Adding on to that is just all the way not worth it to me. And then I really like fortifying toast on an earring, and obviously refreshing toast. Refreshing toast helps get those cleanse pots off cooldown faster. Fortifying toast gives you a big fortify every time you drink a potion. If you're drinking a potion, you're probably in trouble. So having fortify, especially in a heavy set, is really good. If you're running a medium or a light set, again, I recommend a heavy. That's just me. That's my play style. But if you're running a kill squad variant of this, or if you're running a quad in a medium build and you're really trying to pump out some more damage, I could see you running empowering toast on there instead. That would also be beneficial. Things that you're going to want on your bar, your consumable bar. You're going to want your infused health pots there, obviously. Spend the money. You're going to want to use regeneration serum. I personally run, where do I have them? Right here. I run the gemstone dust. That's just my personal preference when it comes to playing on point, because it covers all elements, right? And so if you're popping it at the appropriate time, then it will cover a lot more of the damage that's incoming to you. There's an argument to be made for fire pots with how much fire's in the game right now. You could run oak flesh. You could run arcane pots if you're just simply worried about the deados on point. I take the overall coverage and I run gemstone dust, and I'll just pop a few more of them as often as I can. And it seems to be working pretty well for me. What I would say is to identify through gameplay and through VOD reviews and stuff, what are you dying to the most, and then probably take a potion in for that specifically. And then right here, obviously, I'm not running hearty meals during a war. That's my cleanse pot spot that I put it on. So put cleanse pots there. Use the cleanse pots. If you're not cleansing, you're throwing. You're taking everybody else's job is now harder because you're not using cleanse pots. Your healer can't heal you as well. You're getting CC'd more. You're not doing as much damage. You're taking more damage. Just use the cleanse pots. They're there for a reason. And it's war, and that's the only time you can use cleanse pots. So use them, because then like you're one of the cool kids who can use cleanse pots, you know? All right. So I said that we were going to get into artifact choices. There's a couple different ones that you could run. Obviously, artifacts are kind of playstyle specific, depending on what you think you want to run. I personally, again, bad gauntlets or bust, right? Like I will never not run magnetic gauntlets. There's some people who like to run the void dark plate. I get it. It's awesome. You're super tanky. But I don't personally enjoy that. You're already tanky enough in this kit right here. You're tanky. Okay. So just run the mag gauntlets, but dark plate is there if you want it. You could also run the freedom pants. Again, these are all these are kind of biased more towards a heavy set. Freedom pants would be pretty good. You could definitely work those into like a medium loadout. You could also work the magnetic gauntlets into a medium loadout. Freedom pants are really good though, because you're just not going to get clumped up with people if you're playing correctly, because the CC cleanse that's on those is just really good. So I would say freedom pants aren't a bad choice, but I don't run them. When it comes to the jewelry slots that you're going to be running, I'm currently running Blood Drinker. I'm going to, when I get Ankh, I'm going to throw Ankh on here, see how it feels, kind of hit or miss. I'm enjoying Blood Drinker so far, so I don't think there's any that's a bad choice. You could also, depending again on what your role is in the army, you could also run Elemental Band. Well, right now it's disabled, so no one's using Elemental Band, right? But I think there's a pretty solid argument to be made for Elemental Band as well. I will also be trying that once it is turned back on. and I'm hoping it works out really well because I think that it has a lot of potential, and especially if you like gem split some of your stuff, you could get quite a bit of empower. So we'll see if the value's there. I'll kind of take a couple of my war scoreboards and put them side by side and see how it feels running them after a couple wars, just to kind of get a feel for it. But who knows? I'm not convinced either way, simply because I haven't been able to test it because the thing's been disabled forever now. If you were playing a different build, specifically, I'm thinking right now like a light build, right? Again, I personally don't recommend it, but you could do it if you wanted to. There are some other options out there for you. You could run the tumbler feet wraps. Tumbler feet wraps are really good. You get extra damage, you get some incoming healing, you get a little bit extra fortify. They're a great artifact. I wouldn't run them. That's just me. You could also run nimble coat. The cooldown reduction on nimble coat is absolutely insane. Your uptime on your skills would just be 100%. You wouldn't need anything else. I think that nimble coat would essentially be like the counter to, I don't want to say counter, but the nimble coat would be what would get you through your cooldowns and through your rotation faster if you were playing in a light build. Light build is different. There was a guy, I saw a video, the one video that I saw that wasn't like a year old for IgVGs, he's running a light assassin type IgVG, and I'll link his video wherever the link's gonna go. It was really good. He was absolutely slaying people in OPRs, but again, it was in OPRs. It wasn't in a war scenario. I don't personally believe it's super viable in a war scenario, but in OPRs it seemed really fun. I'm going to give it a try at some point. And then you would, for a light build, you would swap some of your skills. Like I probably wouldn't use I potentially wouldn't use like Oblivion, because as a light player I'm going to be bouncing around so much. I would probably run like Tether or something like that, and then probably not run. It would be a toss up between, I think you would keep Tomb for the survivability, and then just drop Ice Shower and throw Ice Spike on there, because Ice Spike nukes people. It's such a strong skill. For that scenario, I would definitely be running Deep Freeze. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of viability in the build. And I mean, I saw him playing it and he did a really good job. So shout out to him. But that's just not my personal play style, again, because I focus IgVGs on war. And that's kind of just my thing. We've already talked over the consumables that you're going to want here for a war, or on your health, on your bar rather. But typical consumables that you're going to run, you're going to run your powerful honing stone. You're going to run whatever attribute food you need for the war. I run the toe stones to get me up to 50 focus. We'll go into attribute split here in a second because I forgot to cover it. That'll get me up to 50 focus. So I'll use one of those really quick just to show what the actual attributes do. You're going to want to run Desert Sunrise for the dot reduction. And then one thing that a lot of people forget is an energizing hearty meal. That's going to increase your mana regen, and it helps a lot. It does stack, so you don't need to worry about that just like randomly falling off your bar or anything like that. It'll be there for 40 minutes, and the mana regen on that is awesome. So I would definitely recommend running that as well. We'll go over the attribute breakdown really quick. Attributes can be a little tricky, especially in my specific situation with running a full Frigid Dawn set. the magnify situation makes it really hard to manage. So this is kind of the split that I've landed on, right? 50 focus for me is a non-negotiable. I get incoming healing and I get free refreshing, so I'm going to take that. What I would like to do is probably play more at like a 250-ish level of constitution, and then get up to 300 intelligence, somewhere around there. This is the best split that I can currently manage with the magnify. I think that the 250 damage over time effect is really good for intelligence, but really just play what you feel best in. I know as when I was shot calling for my company, I would run I think I only got to like 200. Yeah, I would get 200 intelligence, 50 focus, and then I would get up to like 370 ish constitution, because obviously I'm focused on shot calling. I'm trying to stay alive. I'm not really worried about much else. I need to be able to survive longer to be able to shot call better. Now that I am not shot calling anymore, I do more of a better split. I would like to lower my con a little bit, but right now with my magnify situation, I can either get like I can magnify into Constitution and get like 350 con, which I don't need because I'm already tanky enough, or I can only get to like 220 con, and I haven't tried it yet. I want to try it, and I'll report back and let you know how it goes. But it just seems a little too squishy for me. I don't think it would be very squishy. But that's just like, again, this is a soldier build. I'm not looking to pump damage. I'm looking to get assists and stay alive and spin the point as long as possible. So that's why I go with this split, just so that I can play life a little bit better, because that's the way that I see my role being fulfilled. And I'm consistently slotted in a war. So, it's been working pretty well for me so far. A couple of more advanced tips and tricks, in which I've already covered a little bit, but just want to kind of recap. The Void Gauntlet heavies, remember, they heal you. So use your heavies, especially if you see people clumped up on point or in an area, right? You can get the heavies going through them, which again is kind of hard to demo on the dummies here because you got to kind of line it up right. So you can see there it's popping on the other one. It's critting, so that's going towards my cooldown reduction. Heavies are really good for a Void Gauntlet now. Remember to tap your right button there to get some mana get some mana back. It's also going to cleanse you, but just tap it. Don't hold it, anything like that. And then for the Ice Gauntlet, remember to block. I'm not saying live on your block or anything like that, but it is way better than it looks like. I will pull up the video that I was saying that I would, it's in the same war actually, of where I was in a really bad situation and I just could not get away from it. So I'm currently running off a point. I got a hatchet coming up behind me. That is the one thing that you're going to notice about the Ice Gauntlet Void Gauntlet build is you don't have a ton. You don't have getaway, right? Like you have a little bit built in, but not a whole lot. So you really got to play it smartly. So I'm sitting here trying to run away. I've got this hatchet on me. I've got it slowed down still. Sorry about that. I've got this hatchet dogging on me right now, and I'm trying to get out of here. My teammate here drops a storm for me, awesome, or drops a shower for me, awesome. I use that. I'm like, all right, I'm good now. I'm just waiting for my pots to come off cooldown, or my tomb, or my wall, or something like that, right? Oh, he leaping strikes back onto me. Dude, just leave me alone, right? So I turn around and I'm blocking. And at this point, I'm just waiting for my stuff to come off cooldown. It's off cooldown now. Okay, cool. I wall him in, make sure that I'm going to get away safely, heal up, get out of there. The block is, and if we go back and see, while I'm blocking, you'll notice that it's using mana to block there, right? So that's the cool thing about the Ice Gauntlet block is you have the ability to, you don't have to use that skill. It just gives you a much longer block duration because it'll eat your mana and then it'll start eating your stamina. So you can block forever on an Ice Gauntlet. So just, I don't recommend like living on your shield, as it were, for the Ice Gauntlet or anything like that. But it is definitely worth using. So just consider using that a little bit. But generally speaking, that's everything that I wanted to cover. I hope that this helps at least a little bit. There is not a whole lot of IgVg builds out there for people right now, so hopefully this could help you. And if you're interested in playing the class or anything like that, it is an incredibly important role in war to fill. Make sure people are slotting them. If you're a shot caller and you're building the roster, make sure you're slotting your IgVGs. If you're a person who's looking to get into wars and you don't really have a build yet, look at an IgVG, because not a lot of people like to run them because it's not this like super flashy, I'm going to get a bunch of kills build, but I guarantee you'll be slotted because you're going to be one of the only people in your army willing to run it. And so better than not getting the content that you want, right? So hope this helps. If you guys have any questions or anything like that, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I will answer everything that I can. And if you'd like to, go ahead and subscribe, because I would love to put more stuff out like this. If you want any other kind of informational videos or anything like that, I stream New World on YouTube pretty regularly, typically at least once a week, just for fun. And then every war that I do, I stream. So feel free to stop by and see that. You'll see the IgVg in action. So it could potentially be good for you if you're interested in getting into the build. So with that, I'll let you guys go. Thanks again for coming out and watching. Peace.